welcome back to the Gone for 10 show. Now, it was a cracking week of football. The ladder is up there. The Broncos are in first after their big win in the Battle of Brisbane. Then you've got Manly, the Dolphins, and the Warriors rounding out the top four. The top eight wraps up with the Roosters, the Sharks, the Panthers, and the Rabbits, with Storm, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Cowboys, Dragons, Eels, Raiders, and Tigers rounding out the bottom nine. Baxter, my team didn't play. It was a very, very relaxing weekend for me. How was your mood going into the weekend? Obviously, you tipped against your team. They got the result. We'll break it down a little bit more, but how was your weekend, mate? And what did you think of the game? You're on mute.
I was eating some chocolate before. Sorry about that. This weekend had Origin vibes to me. You had the Battle of Brisbane, you had the Battle of the West, you had South versus Manly. It just had Origin vibes all around it. Golden points galore and big blowouts. But nonetheless, it was a great weekend to watch, and it was good to see that the Roosters weren't on screen.
Well, you know what? 2 points without having to show up. I'll take that any day of the week. If they want to do it for the next 20 rounds, I'll take it, and I'll gladly not watch my boys until September. But let's move into, like you said, the Battle of the West. It was the Panthers going down 17-16 to Parramatta. Tries 2 apiece, conversions 2 apiece. Penalty goals, obviously Mitchell Moses slotted 2 from 2. Nathan Cleary 1 from 1. Completion rate 95% to 85%. So this is where you say Origin vibes. The Eels only had 3 errors all game, where the Panthers had 7. But before we break down too much about the ending of the game, what did you make of that first and second half? And then obviously let's talk about the clutchness of Cleary, and then the big man that settled the debate on his contract comes out against the winner.
Yeah, look, you had Parramatta staring down a 4-0 start to the season. Penrith coming off the bye. At this stage, all teams coming off the bye had won their games. It was a close first half and an even better, closer second half. I bet Nathan Cleary's been practicing those, seconds to go 2-point field goal attempts. Like, the bloke's got balls to kick for touch, call for the ball with single-digit seconds left on the board. He slots a 2-point field goal, and then unlucky Mitch Moses, cool, calm, collected. He's starting to grow into his skin as a half, and he's calling for the ball and slots that field goal and takes the win for the Parramatta Eels. But apparently beforehand it was announced that, or rumoured that he had signed on, and it's good to see that he silenced his critics. With that performance, and if he sort of if they went down. Sort of the reasons for his, you sort of understand why he's not deserving of that money, but it is what it is. They've got to win on the board. Penrith break that voodoo of winning teams coming off the bye. Look, nothing really too much from the Penrith Panthers from here, because what's to say, like, the high shot, you got to coax that out of them, but they're one high shot away from winning the game, so it wasn't that bad of a game from a defensive point from Parramatta Eels, nor from Parramatta. So I think it's just you should have just leave this one alone and move on, and just learn how to tackle within the rib section.
Yeah, I thought it was like you said, it was a cracking game. It almost had that finals feel to this game. Now, I don't know what it is when they get to a grand final, but that Parramatta just can't match it with Penrith, or if they time they run perfectly. But this is now, I think, 2 or 3 games in a row where in the regular season, Parramatta's got the edge against Panthers, and it's the second time in a row at CommBank Stadium they have got the edge. So they can definitely player for player match it with Penrith. Now, for Penrith, you take the positives out of there. Nathan Cleary, he's shown his clutch. He's shown that in big games he can win that. And unfortunately, this field goal that was probably printed on every single back page of the Daily Telegraph, fast forward 5 minutes later, it's gone. It's Mitchell Moses celebrating his new contract with, obviously, the field goal that won the game. So I put that up there, probably one of the best field goals I've seen. It's almost around the same likes of that Anasta one against the Tigers, where he hit it from about 35, 40 meters. So let's just hope that doesn't get lost, because to have the balls to kick not just the penalty perfect, so you were exactly 40 meters out, but to know I've got to nail this 45 meters back, cracks it straight over the post, and landed 3 or 4 meters back. So he could have almost done it from halfway. So that's unbelievable in itself. But for Mitchell Moses, like, I don't know if you saw this stat, and I'll get your thoughts on it. He kicked for 1,000 meters in this game. It's the first player to go over 1,000 meters of kicking in a single game. And in the end, it was his boot that made the difference. So what did you make about that coming off the contract news?
Look, I've seen better players kick better in a game and score more points and not having to kick 1,000 meters. So, like, okay, Raps, he's kicked for 1,000, but is he doing that week in, week out? Probably not. I even touched on it, like, I think it was Friday last week at work. Some guy was like, well, why is he worth 1.2, that figure out there? And I had to explain it to him, a Rooster fan of all people. No joke. I just had to explain to him, like, besides the few out there, you know, you got Cleary, Townsend, DCE, Hughes, who have won premierships. Like, sort of the next guy to step up in Origin is probably Mitch Moses, and like if Parramatta lost him, who's a quality half out there that they're gonna have to pay more than $1.2 million. So on you for kicking 1,000 meters, but he's now the bar is set, and he's got to live up to it each and every week with that price tag.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, just before we move on, some, I guess, better news out of Penrith after this loss is Isaiah Yeo has signed on to the end of 2027. So he joined the club when he was 17 years old, and he's going to stay there until 2027. So all the best to him. He's a great player. He sets that foundation for them. And I expected, I haven't looked at the lineups. I haven't looked at, obviously, they come out tomorrow. I haven't looked at the draw, but I expect Penrith to bounce back in some sort of style next weekend. But we'll move into the first of those Friday night games. It was the Storm taking on the West Tigers. It was a 24-12. But to me, and I'll get your thoughts here, it still doesn't feel like this is the Storm of old. Like a Storm of old, they come out, they put 30, 40 past this Tigers side who, let's be honest, has been woeful week in, week out. However, up until 15 minutes to go, we're going, can the Tigers pull up an upset? So what did you make of Melbourne Storm? What do you make of, is it Bellamy can't get the best out of his players anymore? Is it they've got too many injuries? Is it the system's not working? What do you make of it?
I think it's like a bit of everything, like a sprinkle of everything. But also, you don't have to win 40-0 every week just to be that dominant side. You can win 24-12 each and every week and make finals and go on and win it. So, excuse me. So really, Melbourne could have done a little bit more, but I think their defense really set the platform for this game. Like, who else would lose a scrum in a day and age where striking isn't allowed but the West Tigers? I thought Wakeham looked good at 6. Look, my not to hate on the guy, but Luke Brooks, I think they just need to pull the trigger, and he needs to be set down for a week. You know, my thoughts is Dewey and Wakeham in the halves. I think he's they're a better suit than Brooks and Dewey or Brooks and Wakeham at the moment. So, but we joked about it at the start of the season. You couldn't get any worse than 16th. Well, they're on 4, and they currently sit 17th. One position worse than last year. So, like, Bateman looked okay. Brooksy, against the Dogs, his running game was good. Wakeham comes into the game and it explodes out of it, but it just seems to go missing, and this price tag of potential is just wasted. He's had 13 years in the NRL, and unfortunately to say, he hasn't done anything to deliver that, and I think he should just go back on the minimum contract or even play New South Wales Cup for the Tigers if he wants to continue his career as a football player. But yeah, look, Storm look good. They got the win, so wasn't too bad to say. They, as I said, their defense was impressive to me. Only to let in one try a half, so it was pretty impressive on that front. And they come up against, as I quickly scroll down, they come up against the Rabbits on Friday night. So I think they've had this game coming up an eye on more so than the game that they just played. So win. Let's move on to the next week, and we'll touch on into the next game.
Well, before we do move in, I'll just give a quick what I thought I liked from this game, and I think it showed how much a week can make. You saw Justin Olam last week; he looked a bit flat when he came in. He looked like he struggled. He looked like the old Justin Olam. He was explosive in attack. He set up a try. He scored that try. Like, he just looked unbelievable. Now, for me, the most, I guess, disappointing thing was you look at someone like you said, the likes of Adam Doueihi, how good he is. Now, he started the game at fullback. He moved to 5'8". He finished the game in the centers. Now, if you're going to stick with something, then you're going to go, Adam Doueihi's going to go to fullback. Well, you leave him at fullback for that game. You don't shuffle this spine every 20 minutes in a game, because you lose all momentum, you lose the game. Now, Api Coruscant said the momentum he took from the Bulldogs last week, he was really positive. They came out against the Melbourne and they started flat again, and it wasn't only towards the end of the match where they started to have a bit of momentum. So, slow starters, I don't know, but like you said, they have the Rabbits. They better turn their attention there quick, because there's a big chance they're going to be 0-5, and if not worse, as the year goes on. But let's move on to the second Friday night game. It was the Battle of Brisbane. It was the Dolphins going down 18-12 to the Brisbane Broncos, 4 tries to 2. Adam Reynolds had probably the worst kicking game from his boot I've seen in a very long time, going 1 from 4. Completion rate 70-67, probably the poorest of the weekend. And obviously, like you can see, 13 errors to 16. But key takeaways for the Dolphins here, I thought it was positive how much, with their injuries, with their suspensions, with everything going on, playing against the packed house in Brisbane, they held their own for majority of this game. That was only a freakish 100-metre, 80-metre, whatever you want to call it, try that ended up sealing this game, but they definitely held their own, especially moving forward. You look at the Broncos, Reece Walsh, he shined again. He put his hand up again for this origin position. He showed that I should be playing this origin position. I don't care if Kalen Ponga is fit. I should be playing here now. What were your thoughts on this? Milford, I thought, had a good game, but then obviously did go from hero to zero towards the end of the game. But what did you make of both sides and the result?
Yeah, look, overall, Milford had probably a 7 out of 10 game, in my opinion. I think he played really solid. That last kick towards Stags, I think was a bit of a poor option. I think he should have just gone up and put the ball into the in goal and made him come out from their 20, not giving him the 100-metre dash that he did, especially Stags. But apart from that, the Dolphins, with the injuries they had, Katoa, Jerry Marshall King. Oh no, it was Sean O'Sullivan injury, and then Jerry Marshall King suspension, and so is Khalees Kafusi. So
I'll jump in for you there just quickly, Baxter. Just quickly, Sean O'Sullivan, 3 to 4 months injury for his pectoral, complete tear. Isaiah Katoa with an elbow should return in round 5, and Tessie New has done his MCL, so it's a minimum of 4 weeks return for the Dolphins. Yeah,
so just to say about the pec, apparently it's more so. I'm going to show you. It's more so in the arm, the muscle that connects the arm to the pec area. That's what's completely apparently the muscle is completely snapped off, and that's why he sort of went down like a sack of potatoes. And I'm pretty sure that you and I would go down like a sack of potatoes too if that injury occurred on us. But to hold Brisbane up to 12 points up until that accidental, poor kick from Milford, I think the Dolphins had a really, really good game. A really poor one on the flip side from the Broncos, given that how they ended last week's game, and they sort of came into this game. Like, it wasn't like if I was to look at the two games and go, this was to tell you this Broncos team that beat the Dragons 40-18 last week, and to come into this week, I wouldn't. I thought there would have been a space, a gap or a space of games in between. It was just a bit weird to see from the Broncos. Yes, it's the rivalry match, the Battle of Brisbane, but um, the way they finished last week, I thought they'd come out a little bit more aggressive, given that they can afford to do so with the injuries on the opposition. So they get the win. They've got to improve on the incompletion rates and improve on their error rate, because 16 errors and only win by 6 is it's pretty piss poor.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. We expect a lot more coming out of last week's magical 10 minutes, but I think we almost saw the same thing. The Dolphins went ahead, the Broncos put on 2 quick tries, and they got the result. So, I don't know, maybe the Broncos aren't going to be that team that are flashy or they go crazy for 80 minutes. You're just going to try and head into that game and hope that Reece Walsh can pull off a bit of magic and obviously get him through. But, yeah, it was a good game, let's be honest. The rivalry, it built up over the week. It made this game interesting. Like, mate, I don't support a Queensland team, and I was sitting here going, I can't wait for the Battle of Brisbane. So it was almost so this game was more exciting than a grand final rematch played the day before. So that says a lot when you're talking about a new franchise team versus a team that didn't even play in the 8, the 2 grand finalists are kind of getting ignored for this game. So nonetheless, I think the Dolphins over the next couple of weeks now will kind of see what they're made of with all these injuries. They do get Jeremy Marshall-Kim back, but they still are missing Kafusi. And like we said, they will be without Tessie New. They could be without Katoa, and they could be without Sean O'Sullivan. So we do hope that Milford can stand up, can lead them in the right direction. But I think we're going to start to learn that maybe those first 3 weeks all high and mighty, but injuries, depth, it's always going to be a problem for a new franchise. And I think we'll see that over the next couple of weeks. But let's move into your boys. It was one of 2 games on Super Saturday, so it wasn't very super. You tipped, obviously, the Titans 1-12. I went with the same thing. I almost switched at the last second just to be a pain, but it was 4 tries, 4 from 4 from the boot, 80% completion rate, 10 errors for you guys, 2 tries for the Titans, 1 from 2 from the boot, 1 penalty goal, 75% completion, and 12 errors. Now, for me, what I liked out of this game, the resilience of obviously the Cowboys with a few players out injured, a few players suspended, more carnage out of this game. But from a Titans perspective, Cam Pereira, so he had an absolute blinding game. He's now scored 4 tries in his last 3 games. He ran for 182 meters, 5 line breaks, 6 tackle breaks. He was absolutely brilliant. He's a local talent. So first of all, what did you make of Cam Pereira? And then talk to me about your boys getting the result done here in a 1-12.
Yeah, look, impressive game from him. You know, the stats you read out was what you expect from a guy from up there. So it was pretty impressive. I'm unlucky to the Gold Coast Titans here. You know, they lost Kieran Four and they lost AJ Brinson, which is where the game turned. I think Gold Coast were in the driver's seat up until that point, and then the Cowboys just ran away with it there, which was unfortunate for them. Good for me, for my team getting the win. This is a response that I was hoping for. Unlucky with my tipping, but this game was a bit of a to and fro on a defensive error kind of thing, like 10 errors to us, 12 errors to them. Completion rates up there, but could be better. Just need to work on that. It's only round 4, but the game's coming into next week, and excuse me, you know, you got the Cowboys got the Dogs, and Titans obviously got the bye. They'll be looking to improve their defensive errors next week.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like you said, the bye for the Titans next week, I think that comes at the perfect time for them. Obviously, Kieran Foran did leave the field with a calf, and then a couple of minutes later, AJ Brimson goes down with a hamstring. So I know we say, let's add an extra team. The byes aren't helpful, but we're seeing right now the Roosters last week, battered and bruised, had a bye. Now some of their players are back. We look at the Titans, they're battered, they're bruised. They've copped a few injuries that we're not sure what's happening yet. They get some players back. But I think there was only one other injury from this game, and it was Murray Talakai. So we'll wait to see what comes from that. It is supposedly a knee injury. They said a week or 2, so hopefully it's nothing too major for him. But Let's move in to the second game. It was South Sydney taking on Manly, a 13-12 victory, finished in extra time with a field goal to Lachlan Ilias. He steps up again when his team needs him now. For people watching this that don't understand the reference of that Rabbitohs fin, obviously Sattler did pass away. The Rabbitohs did pay tribute to him by having that half rabbit on their jersey. I thought it was a touch-in fin to do for the game. They got the result. And as fate would say, it's 13 points like the number that Sattler wore. So what did you make of this game? What did you make of Ilias? And I guess controversial, if you want to say it, what did you make of obviously Cody Walker's try and then the no try up the other end that I think there was about 3 forward passes before the only backwards pass that was called forward in that game?
This is a game I watched more so due to the passing of Johnny Sattler. More reference to the half rabbit. It's actually a full rabbit. If you look at the grand final I actually played in, it was actually a full rabbit, but halfway through the game, half of his rabbit went missing. So that's why there is half a rabbit. It was good to see during the minute silence.
Wouldn't it be nice if the rabbit just disappeared together and they were out of the comp again? Oh, that'd be a great place to
be. Your future father-in-law would love to hear that and have kind words with you, but
I'll clip it.
Good. I'd love to see his face when that happens. But it was good to see that during that minute of silence, there wasn't a murmur or, I expect when it happens like this, like some idiot, someone's just going to give a Yahoo or someone's going to say something and it's going to kick it off and it's just going to ruin, it's going to take away the spotlight away from what they're standing up for and they're being silent, paying their respects for. So it was good to see that even at the 13-minute mark, all the South fans got up and clapped and cheered and, in remembrance of him as well. Look, the forward pass for Manly, I think it was like a bit of sweet because, as you said, there were a couple of forward passes beforehand before they actually called it. A bit of a forward pass early on, which, it's a bit of I call it a ball line pass. Like, I'm not arguing. I'm not upset that it was forward. I'm not upset if it wasn't called forward because, it was one of those ball line calls and it was, as I said, a couple of passes beforehand looked a bit forward before that. But Cody Walker's one, I think there was a game that got ruled out with that sort of similar. So you have to take the goose with the gander. Every referee is going to see it differently. They're not always going to agree. That's why we got the bunker there and we paid $2 million a season for it. But I think that's doing a useless job anyway. But it was good to see. I think they went to Latrell once for the golden point field goal, but luckily Ilias stood up and stood out from out of the shadow and really imprinted his name into this game. And it was good to see that they have more than just one option when it goes to that field point attempt.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we saw, and I know I'm bringing up my boys a lot here, but obviously I watch them a fair bit, but we saw the likes of that when I think it was Roosters taking on Melbourne where Cooper Cronk kind of just clapped in the background. He was never getting the ball. Went the opposite corner to Latrell, who sunk it from 40 metres. So it's good to have those players that, like an Ilias, who can step up where he's not the main man because you're looking at Latrell, you're looking at Cody Walker, you're looking at these players. And then I just feel Ilias week to week, he's now growing into this position and he copped a lot of hate when he first started, but he's starting to become a massive threat for these sides that he's playing. So massive shout out to Ilias. But for me, I know we have this debate. We say no internationals that represent another country should play Origin, but Koala, because I don't know how to say his name, so it's Koala and obviously Alec Kawatu from Manly, they're definitely putting their hands up for selections now. Koala, he had 179 run meters, 41 tackles in an 80-minute effort. Ola Kawatu, another 140 meters. He made 31 tackles and only missed one tackle in that game. So it's definitely going to be a headache come Origin time. How he's going to pick his squad, we don't know. But the only, I guess, disappointing thing, and I'll ask you because you said you did have a bit of an eye on this game, is it just me or does Cameron Murray look tired? Does he look like he just needs that week off where he can have that rest? He can relax because he made some silly errors. We're not used to seeing him that average passing the ball around. He gave away 2 or 3 penalties. he just looks tired. I just feel like he needs a break. What did you make of that?
I find it funny you bring that up because even the commentator said it. But like I looked I looked at how much time was left to go. It was like less than 3 minutes to go in regular time. Like he's played almost an 80-minute game. Of course he's going to be tired at the end of a minute game. Again, Greg Alexander is making these comments. I was just like, man, like it's at the end of an 80-minute game.
Look at Harry Grant. Harry Grant against Parramatta this year. He played 85 minutes and he still had that explosiveness. Like Murray does not have that explosiveness after 75 minutes. You look at Nathan Cleary, 79 minutes into a game, he still has the power to pump one from 75 meters.
Most forwards don't have that the engine to play 80 minutes, and he does. He can play 80 minutes, but it's not going to be a 10 out of 10 from the first minute to the 80th minute. I think maybe he does need to come off somewhere in the back end of a second half. Maybe give him a rest. 5-10 minute spell, go back on, and finish the game. It's great as a coach to have an 80-minute player because that's one less player you have to worry about rotating around and filling in for a slot. And he does a terrific job in the middle there at lock. So, like especially defensively and attackingly, he's got hands like a baby, and he just soft, silky hands like Isaiah Yeo, like Jake Dvojevic, who's got their passing game down to a T. It would be a bit of a miss if you took him off and, coming into the dying end of the game where you need that sort of those hands. So I don't know when the South Sydney have their bye next, but it's got to come before Origin, or maybe they start to look at.
No, I'm pretty sure South Sydney don't have buys until like the back end of the season. They have like 2 in the last 8 weeks or something. So they don't really have many.
That's a bit stupid too, having 2 buys in the back end of the season. Maybe that's good for them later on when you make your finals charge. You're sitting. Let's just use an example. Let's just say they're sitting top 4, and they know mathematically if they lose or certain games, they'll still finish 4th. Maybe they go, all right, Walker, Elias, Locke, Elias, Walker, Cook, Mitchell, Murray, Burgess, all have a week off. Like it could happen like that. Like it could happen in the back end of the season.
They have a buy in round 16, a buy in round 20, and a buy in round 26.
So they have 3 buys. So one of them is Origin. So I'm guessing it's game 3 for that. And then they have a buy in the middle of the year, which will be after game 1.
Round 16. 16, 20, and 26.
Well, there's eight more rounds before Origin 1 has to be selected. So that's round 12. 13 is usually game 1 off the top of my head. So if they're in round 16, that probably looking just the week before the game 2.
So
maybe
they'll have their first bye the week before Origin. So the week of Origin of game 3, they'll have their first bye. So they'll play 15 games straight. They'll have their bye. They'll then play 1, 2, 3 games. They'll have another bye. They'll then play 4 games or 5 games, and then they'll have another bye before they face the Roosters in the final game of the season. That's pretty
good. Like that's a good run of buys towards the back end of your season. But nonetheless, maybe as I said, maybe they need to look at Murray, maybe playing 75 minutes or 70 minutes just to keep him nice and fresh for an 80-minute stint. So, well, it is what it is. South's got the win. Manly.
Yeah, you know what? I'm almost on the same page even. I'm sick of talking about South Sydney and a victory that they're in. So I know what you're going to say. Let's move on to the Sunday game because it was the 2 ex-Panthers assistant coaches becoming coaches. They went head-to-head. Webster gets the win, 1-0 over Serrato, but it was 16-14. I thought this was a cracking game. If you go back 3, 4, 5 years ago, this probably finishes 40-44 because neither team would have the resilience to defend. Neither team could have held another one out. It would have been tick for tack. But what we saw here is Bulldogs scored early. Everything kind of deflated at Mount Smart Stadium. Everything deflated. Everyone was like, oh no, here we go. The Warriors showed their grit. They defended their line. They got back within 2 points going into the break. They got into the second half. Let's talk controversy. I'll get your thoughts on the kick out non-strip that led to the trial. Then get your thoughts on obviously the Sean Johnson obstruction. And then like for me, the resilience of the Warriors here is just, we looked at the Bulldogs and we went 1 through 17. This is a side that could play top 8 at the start of the season. We said they could make the top 8. A lot of people had the Warriors in their bottom 4, and now we sit here a couple games into the season and we go, they're probably not going to play finals, but if they did somehow say scrape that 8th spot, we're not sitting here going, holy shit, how'd they do that? Because they're starting to show signs of the Warriors of old. Now, yes, we've said this year in, year out, and 5 weeks later we're going, the Warriors do suck. But they just seem to have something different under Webster. They seem to be bouncing. They have a structure. They have a system. The players are playing for them. But I guess the negative out of this is Tohu Harris. His knee injury, we don't know exactly how long he's out for. But what did you make of the game? And then let's put those tinfoil hats on and let's talk about this controversy, the 2 calls that, I guess, even themselves up in the end. But what did you make of it?
Yeah, sort of the game went a bit quiet due to the Bulldogs getting in front, but take away those 2 tries from one from either team, it still puts Warriors ahead. So I think it was a good all around that both teams got lucky with a try. Well, with the Warriors one, I can understand why black and white it's an obstruction, but I tend to lean towards ruling black and white, but I can understand the grey areas, ruling, judging everything as it is, and I didn't really see it as a obstruction first and foremost. Like when it happened, I was like, oh, he's just Reed Money. He's just made he's just sort of run into the Ewan Aiken. I think it was Ewan Aiken. The decoy runner. Sorry. And I was just like, oh, well, this is nothing.
Noah Blake.
But Finua Blake. Sorry. But like, what was Spoke supposed to do? He's supposed to disappear out of nowhere. Like is he supposed to run to a line, pass the line, but because the play's gone back, they shift across, and he's supposed to disappear all of a sudden? That's why I say I understand why it's called. It should have been an obstruction. I understand why it's not an obstruction. And then again, for the non-strip on kick out incident, like I can understand why. I can understand why not. So it's good that there was one for each team. We can move on. My impressive takeaway from this game was Sean Johnson. It looks like the early days of Sean Johnson. The bloke had he was just running around on the field. Like he had no weight on his shoulders. He had no responsibilities. And, man, the old Sean Johnson would have passed in that instant in that try. But he goes out, looks back in, does a quick 1-2 with his feet, and he's into the line and scores a try. So, man, like if Webster can get him playing good, I think the Warriors can. At the moment they sit 4th with a 3 out of 1 game winning streak. 3-2 so far. It's good. Let's just keep it going and let's move on.
Well, they are 3-1. You got it right the first time. We are only 4 games into the season, so you did get that correct. But I think, like you said with Sean Johnson, they did ask Serrato what was the difference in this game, and his answer was quite simple. It was Sean Johnson. Now, like you said, I thought if you looked at it on the basis of what it is, black and white, it's an obstruction. Now, I want to say that's probably a 50-50 call, and I'm glad common sense did prevail here, but I look at the kick-out one, and we looked at all these replays for 2 minutes. No, he didn't strip it. They say no try. The next angle they show, he's making a clear motion from behind. So I think if you're looking at the scheme of things, the Warriors were probably hard done by. Black and white, yes, the Bulldogs were hard done by, but I don't think he was getting anywhere near Sean Johnson. And I don't know, have you seen Phil Gould's tweet? Have you seen his tweet about this one?
I'm usually up to date with Phil Gould on the Facebook and Instagram, but Twitter, not so much.
Well, let's just say if there was a bus, he's thrown Mahoney under it a little bit. So his first thing was it was not an obstruction. Reid Mahoney made his decision. It wasn't to tackle Johnson. It was a tackle for Noah Blake. Johnson beat 2 players inside Mahoney. It was a fair try. Mind you, yes, 99 out of 100 in recent years, this would have been disallowed. But in this decision, Gus Gould thinks common sense has prevailed and he's gotten him the right call. He continues to throw Mahoney over the bus and go, he spoke to me after the game and said he didn't even know that Sean Johnson had the ball. He thought it was passed. So he's definitely thrown him under the bus a little bit there. I don't know what his play is there, but he's definitely thrown Mahoney under the bus. But like we said, fair play. I'm glad common sense is prevailing. Now, if we can just keep this consistent throughout 27 games, I think we're in a better place here. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get it because I can guarantee you this week there'll be an obstruction exactly the same. It'll be no try. It'll cost someone the game. But like you said, we can sit here and go, yes, black and white, it was an obstruction, but you got away with one too. So let's just call it even and move on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to move on to the next game, and it was the Newcastle Knights standing tall against the Raiders, 24-14. Their first win in 8 games at home. They were resilient. Now, again, kicking, bit of an issue off the boot. Penalty, like he went 2 from 5, missed the penalty goal, but their completion rate, they got some troops back. They completed at 84%, and they still have, yes, he's an injury prone, yes, he's a concussion prone, but they still have Kalen Ponga to come back into this squad. But I think Lachlan Miller is the man you're going to want to start building around. We saw his brilliance in this game. We saw his cutout pass in this game. We saw him drawing players in, but he just looks like you got rid of Kalen Ponga, you said, to a fullback like you see in these big teams. The Roosters, Melbourne when they have Pappenhausen, Penrith with Dylan Edwards, you said Lachlan Miller run the show. And that's what he did. They got the result. Jack Wyden on report twice. But what did you make of this game? And Newcastle fans, you got that win on the board.
I think Newcastle look like a better squad without Ponga in the whole lineup than they do with him. Because he's such a liability at the moment with his head knocks. I think, as I said, I think the Newcastle Knights are a better side. And this game was sort of an arm wrestle that went back and forth. It was up for the taking for either team. And the completion rate 84%, 8 errors. It's going to win you a game if you're not erring high and you're completing really good. And Jason Hastings' his kick options on the last tackle were good. I think it was like a kick for a repeat set. Another one was a repeat set. Got a try in there. Got an assist. Did a doozy on another one. So, like they're starting to evolve and starting to get better each and every week. And for the Newcastle faithful, I think that is a positive sign for the town. I only went up there like a few weeks ago when they had lost, and it was sort of there was black skies and grey clouds, and it just wasn't a good place to be. So this win should bring McDonald Jones Stadium back into its glory days and the light shining upon it. Unlucky on Ricky. Jack Wyden goes to the bin. Can't be doing it, mate, unfortunately. They're rubbing it out of the game, so everybody's going to be sent off for that. So, unfortunately, they head back home with the tails between their legs, and they got Melbourne this week on a 6 p.m. Friday night game, and mate, they better get the win this week.
Well, they do have a bit of a rub over Melbourne in recent years. So if there's a team that's going to be able to pull it off, it probably is the Raiders. But like you said, for the Newcastle Knights, it's what the team needs. We need the NRL to be consistent. We need teams to get the wins. The only one that's left now without a win is obviously the Tigers. So hopefully they can pull their finger out and get a result, because they definitely have a team that can put results in. But let's move on to a team that we did have in our bottom 4. We did have as wooden spooners. They turned us around and we went, okay, maybe they're not as bad as everyone thinks. They only had a bad 10 minutes against Brisbane, but it was the Sharks down in the Dragons 40-8. Nico Hines is back, and he's back in style. For the Sharks, 7 tries, 5 from 7 from the boot, 1 from 1 penalty goal. That was big Talakai. He got his kick. He put it over the bar. Completion rate 75% apiece. Errors 14 to 13. Now, let me ask you this, and this is my, I guess, quick look on the Dragons side. Is it that the Dragons can only play 40 minutes, or is it that teams slowly just kind of grind and break them down? Like the Dragons were almost ahead at halftime. It was only for a late try. And then you flash forward 40 minutes and there's 40 points put on you. So is it the Dragons don't have the steam to keep going? They don't have a second option once they start conceding points? Or like what do you make of this side, and what do you make of, I guess you can say, the Cronulla Nico Hines Sharks?
Yeah, look, from all reports at the start of the season, Hook was being told he's going to have to reapply for the job in 2024, but they were going to speak to other coaches. That's been leaked now. Apparently, the board of the St. George Dragons have not made any offer nor have spoken to anybody at this current time, but take it with a grain of salt, as you would. Look, if I'm Anthony Griffin, I'm telling him, mate, if you've thrown your name into the ring, quickly find it and tear it into a million pieces, because get away from this team, because they're 10 points worse than they were last week. They got, like, name a side that gets 80 points scored against them over 2 games and goes on to have a passable season, not even a grand final win, but even a passable. Like last year, they sat 12-12. Usually, that gets you a top 8 finish. But man, you're gonna have to do something. Like even Ben Hunt, after the game, he said, "I don't think there's any player in that dressing room that would Ben Hunt, said that there would be no player that would have stood up and put their hand up and said they had a good second half. Like maybe the first half, yeah, they look good, for that late try. But I think from my experiences and what I can see is that the Dragons are going to come at you pretty hard and fast early on. And if you can just weather through that and not fold and lose your cool a little bit, and you get into the sheds and you come out at second half, I think you can sort of turn the tables on them, and you can score some quick points and put them on the back foot and and then keep pressing down. The Dragons seem to play like just this one style of football, and it just, when they don't have plan A, the famous Mike Tyson, his old boxing coach, used to say, if you don't have a plan A, you got to have a plan B, C, D. You can't just rely on this one and done thing that might work for you here and there. When you're down in the dumps and you need to reach down for something, you need to be reaching down and grabbing a plan B. So again, Griffin, find your name, rip it up into a million pieces, walk away from this job, because the last time they had a successful coach, they won a grand final in Wayne Bennett, but no one's going to replace Wayne Bennett unless you're a big name like Bellamy. So it just on the Cronulla Sharks for scoring 40 and cementing the early season with a positive start. So I'm unlucky to the Dragons fans, but start ordering a wooden spoon.
Well, like you said, Griffin has met with the board. So he has met with the board. He said he was unhappy about that information being leaked. However, he is focused on results. So all rumors coming out is he's not happy. There's rumors coming out that he's been given 5 weeks to save his job. I think, like they said on, I think it was Bray Finasta on one of his shows, he did say, you've got to think, for the Dragons leaking this information, they need to act quick. If Jason Riles, we think Bellamy's going to retire. If Jason Riles has to choose between a Melbourne Storm side or a Dragon side, we know where he's going to pick. So maybe they're trying to get him before it does become a tug of war, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I am going to pop that ladder back up there, because I know there is one team that you do want to talk about. It is the Roosters, and more importantly, you want to talk about Obviously, Joseph Suaalii, his contract, it's said that at the end of next season, he will depart the Roosters. He will head over to rugby union. I guess that's one talking point. And the other one is Angus Crichton returning to training. So good luck to him. I'm glad he's back. But what do you make, obviously, of the big talking point, Joseph Suaalii signing with rugby union on 1.6 mil?
Yeah, look, we'll touch on Angus Crichton first. It's good to see that he's back with the boys. If any, or if all head noises that's going on inside his personal life are removed, or he's working on them to get them removed, and so he can back out and play some football. He's chose a better time, not even a better time to do it. You know, they come off the bye. If he gets named this week and he comes out and play, I think everybody's going to rally around him. But for Suaalii, everything seemed to me like he was dead set signing to stay with the NRL here, because you had the extension of Tedesco to 2025. Suaalii's got an extension to around to 2024, not round 25, to 2024. So he was going to Teddy was going to have one more year past the contract, and then all reports from inside journalists at the Daily Telegraph hit me up, and it was reported that his manager, Suaalii's manager, had been now rugby union accredited by Rugby Australia, so he could talk with obviously Rugby Australia. But that was like sort of a big stopping, a big wall moving forward on that top. And I thought the more that doesn't come down, the more he doesn't get accredited, the more likely he would stay on and sign with the Roosters for longer. But as the Cheese says, $1.6 million ain't going to fix Rugby Australia. And look, I'll sit here with you. If I'm Suaalii and I got dangled $1.6 million a year for 3 years, I'll probably take it too. Being that he's not even at the moment, he's 19. He's got his own house. Probably got his own car, maybe a few cars. Probably has paid off his parents' place and whatnot. But I just find it funny that this same bloke, when he was back at playing North Sydney Bears, and I think it was his dad or something, went across to Rugby Australia and asked for a 2-year deal at $200,000 in total. They knocked him back and said, go away. So the money that they've just lost on spending on grassroots football is just unfortunate. If we want to talk about Rugby Union Australia, I think it's just a bit of a loss there, because I don't think, and I've said this to a few people at work today, Rugby Australia haven't bought Suaalii the person, they've bought Suaalii the name, the profile that comes with it. Like they're just trying to attract a new kind of football. But look, whilst Australia aren't one of the main teams in Union, I don't think you're gonna fix anything at the moment, and it's not going to beat the All Blacks come the next World Cup.
Well, I mean, Cheese did have a cheeky little crack at that. He said $1.6 million winner from the Roosters is not going to help you beat the All Blacks. So he did have a bit of a crack on him. But like you said, I feel like it's a weird one. I feel like even though they've lost Suaalii to the NRL, I feel like it's almost a win for the NRL. What they've done is they've gone out and they forced Rugby Union to splash $1.6 million over 3 years. And this is just my personal opinion, but fast forward past 2027, come 2028, I think he's back in the NRL after that World Cup. I don't think he still stays over in Rugby Union. Now, will it create a bidding war? Yes, because he's used to being on 1.6 million. But I just think this has Sonny Bill Williams written all over it. It has obviously Tuivasa-Sheck, who people thought were going to return, went over to Rugby Union, chased the money, didn't turn out how he wanted to, and now there's a chance he heads over to Japanese Rugby League instead of coming back to the NRL to chase the bag. So I don't think anyone can blame Suaalii for jumping at 1.6 million. He's probably going to do 1/3 of the work. He's going to get paid double what he was getting paid at the Roosters. So fair play to him as a young kid. If he can keep
can I throw it to you? What's he done to deserve this big money, even in rugby league standard point of view? Because like, okay, yeah, he got selected to play in the World Cup. That was only happened in the off season. But apart from that, what's he really done to deserve this kind of money? It's not like he's played Origin. It's not like he's played grand finals or finals football for a number of seasons, like AKA Teddy Tedesco.
Are we talking in regards to the 1.6 or the what he was on at the Roosters?
Just over both codes. Like, I don't understand why. Like, good on him for getting 1.6. That's not what my issue is. I'm more concerned about the rugby union, like Australia. Like, why? What's he done to deserve that? For them to go, 1.6 is a good deal from our point of view. Like, what would? I just don't understand it. Like, surely enough, he doesn't break into this starting 15 side for Australia. Like,
Mate,
I see him
terrible. He'll crack into that so easily. He'll walk into that side.
He'll walk, but I don't think he'll do impressively. I don't think he'll do.
Well, I think. Let's be honest. Like, he's not for rugby union. Okay, NRL. I think it's 750K on the Roosters next year. I think that was more so they got him on such a low contract that it kind of back ended. I think that's why his contract is going up with the Roosters. It's back ended so that they did fit under that salary cap. Chuck in the comments, salary sombrero, whatever you want.
Yeah.
I think looking back on Suaalii, we're saying, like, we look at back when he was playing at his private school, he was a generation. They thought he was a generational talent back then in rugby union. So for him to go back to the code, like you said, he's now got this name. We look at us, we're football fans. We look at when we look over in England, and there's a generational talent, someone they think is going to explode, regardless if they ever reach that potential. That first or second big move is the big money move that they do take. So does he hit form? I don't know. Does he play for the Wallabies? I'd almost guarantee he's going to start playing for Rugby Australia. But again, yes, 1.6 million is probably too much, but fair play to him for getting the bag.
Well, I think he's got the Barbarian Tour coming up for when he jumps over, and he's got the World Cup, and I think there's 3 major tournaments he's got in that 3-year deal. So it's not like he's just going to be sitting doing nothing. So I think he's more chasing that, which will be impressive. And then he'll come back and he'll be a seasoned vet. But like my question to you: do you take him if he's fit and healthy? Do you take him in the Origin squad? Do you take him?
I think you've got to. Next year's probably a different story. This year, I think he is there next year, so he has committed for this season and next season. If he's fit, if he's good enough, I don't think. You're there to win. Let's be honest. You're there to win Origin. You don't want to lose Origin. Fittler does not want to go out there and lose another Origin series to Queensland. So if he's the best player in that position and you think can get you a win, you take him for all money. You don't punish a player for going to Union because, well, I want to win Origin. It's simple as that.
Well, he has. As you touched on, Freddie has to win because if he doesn't win this year, he doesn't get that automatic extension for next year. Which my tip. This is no one's told me anything like this. Just a tip: if New South Wales lose, they don't extend Freddie Fittler's contract, and you'll see Craig Bellamy take over the New South Wales head coaching role. That's my just opinion. I think it's more so he can just step back from coaching full time, and he can just concentrate on those 3 games a season and be like Billy.
Well, you know what? I'll go one step further. When New South Wales win the series, Fittler gets reinstated. When Queensland lose the series, Billy Slater takes over at Melbourne Storm and takes over the reins of Bellamy with Jason Riles as his assistant if he does stay on. But Baxter, we're pushing an hour, so we are going to wrap it up then. Quickly again for everyone listening, you got the Broncos in first, Manly second, Dolphins third, Warriors fourth. The bottom 4 of the 8 are the Roosters, Sharks, Penrith, and Rabbits. Then you have Storm, Bulldogs, Titans, Knights, Cowboys, Dragons, Eels, Raiders, and Tigers in that bottom 9. We will be back. Team lists do drop tomorrow. We'll be back either tomorrow night or Wednesday. We'll drop all those episodes. But, guys, thank you for the love that we have been getting on the episodes, the views. I think you figured out today we averaged about 550 views per video. We've skyrocketed from that 190 we were at 2 weeks ago to 239 subscribers. So the next goal is in sight. We're looking at that 250. Then we'll push on 300. And who knows what the limit is. But Baxter, mate, thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, peace.